it. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. This is a special meeting, Pecos Area Water and Sanitation District. And we'll start off with a roll call. Bill, here. BJ,
Yeah.
Glenn,
Here.
Pete, here. Alex, here. Okay.
You have,
The first thing on the agenda is the proposal presentation by Zipper Valley Ranch LLC. Trey?
well, I'm just
The floor is yours.
have a,
Okay.
I
Where would
use
you like to be? Where's the best place to?
well,
Do you want to see?
and Celeste sent Jesse down there and he liked her. Laura Sherman's her name. You might have gone to high school with her.
Hey, Ellie? Ellie?
Yeah.
Can you help me?
Construction of a reservoir. And so at the end, I'll finish up with some benefits to Pause, benefits to San Juan, benefits to the community, and then open it up for some questions and comments. That sound fair? Okay. First slide, I guess, yeah, Justin, can you turn it on? What on? Sharing, go share. So first of all, while he's pulling this up, my interest is operated as a ranch. I mean, I have ranches in Texas. I'd like to move the ranching here, so I know there's some speculation about, you know, development or whatever. My interest is to operate a ranch. You all came together and purchased a ranch. I'm proposing buying the ranch and using it as a ranch, okay? I originally submitted a contract as an offer back to PAWS on October 14th. I went to PAWS first because they were the 90% owner. This seemed to make sense. Shortly thereafter, we discussed that contract. We went back and forth with some discussions. He said we would suggest, you know, sending that to San Juan. I said, that sounds great. I did that on November 1st. So just give you a little history. That's when meaningful and substantial discussion started on us trying to purchase the Running Iron Ranch. And if you, let's see, yeah, next slide. So I'm not going to read this whole next slide to you, but this is kind of my take on how this all started. It's my understanding there was a Harris study, a Harris report, 2003. It said that what about a 4,000 acre foot reservoir, or what about a 12,500 acre foot reservoir? But then it's interesting, if you read it, it says each option had a supply margin of 3,500 acre feet or 12,000 acre feet. And it was saying that only 500 acre feet was needed based upon what was projected at the time. That's the way I interpret that. So go back to 2007, forward to today, we have 18 years where PAWS and San Juan have been working to develop the Dry Gulch Reservoir under a 90-10 partnership, funded entirely by a loan from the state of Colorado and a $1 million grant that I believe came from the state of Colorado as well to San Juan. After 18 years, Pagosa Water and Sanitation has contributed millions in loan payments. And I'm not trying to get exact numbers because I'm not here to dispute, you know, margins of errors, but there's millions of loan payments that have been made. San Juan has struggled to advance the project through project management, engineering, planning, and grant partnership procurement. And I don't say that word struggle critically towards San Juan, I really don't. I don't know that a board without people that are paid with a salary or, you know, in some other form to do the work, I don't think that formula is successful. So I'm not saying, you know, has struggled. I don't mean that personally towards San Juan. I just mean, I think there's a better way. And I'm going to get into that, like what I'm proposing, because I would like to build the reservoir. Okay. So in the 2016, there was a restructure agreement, and now going forward, we have loan payments that are set to continue through 2034, which would be over 2.5 million from PAWS, and you know, hundreds of thousands of deferred interest every year. It's kind of a complicated chart, but it's definitely hundreds of thousands every year that accrue and deferred penalty interest every year that goes by. And so kind of the soundbite on where it's been and where it is, I think that this proposal at the end of the day, when we finish up here, 12 or 13 slides back, hopefully you'll see that this will save the community $6.7 million at a bare minimum going forward, okay? And still have a reservoir. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is like the Harris report, and again, I don't want to read all these stats to you, but to me, what I interpret from information that I gathered is that in 2003, you know, the population of Archuleta County was 11,000 people. Expected the population to grow between 5 and 7%. Water usage per resident at 215 gallons. And fast forward to 2025, the population is 13,000. The average population growth is 1.4. Water usage per resident is way down, probably thanks to water, you know, improvement measures in the community. Maybe it's fixtures being more efficient, people being more cognizant about, you know, saving water. And so now in 2025, this is what we know. We look at the 2040 Harris study. We could almost, again, kind of come up with some estimate as to where we might be in 2040, what we know now. And what I'm suggesting is that the margin of error is off significantly in the hundreds of percentages. especially for the amount of acre feet of water that's needed. So, in my little footnote here was it is recommended to reevaluate this every 5 years. I'm sure that both boards independently monitor it, maybe more frequent than that annually, but I'm not so sure that something's gridded like this every 5 years. All right, so now I get into what I'm calling like the revised San Juan Headwaters project objectives, and this is just my plan. So the first thing is water storage at a proper scale. I am going to propose here that, in my opinion, the proper scale is 3,000 acre feet. I still think that is probably robust for what is needed. I've talked to people at the state, I've talked to regional water boards, I've talked to water experts, I've talked to people that build dams. Again, I'm no water expert, but my personal opinion is that it's probably 1,000 acre feet. And that's just not a real meaningful reservoir. So what I think is let's propose 3. If we can get into a program where we design, engineer, estimate, go for grants, really build this thing, I don't think it makes sense to do 1,000 acre foot reservoir. So I'm kind of bumping up what I think is really practically needed at 3,000 acre feet. And I think along what I'm suggesting is a 10-year journey to get this done. I think, we'd find some creative way to get private enterprise involved, because I just don't think the reservoir, even at 3,000 feet, pencils out. There's just not that much population that is fed. We can use this wonderful river to transport water, but it's still not going to huge population bases. There's all kinds of creative ways we can get pipelines over to other watersheds, but those are expensive. It's a pure funding dilemma, in my opinion. So, and my interest is not to develop it, it's to operate it as a ranch. But if we get into this 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the road, and all of a sudden a ski resort is going up there, and some commercial development makes sense, and it helps get the reservoir, and all of a sudden, if it's a $40 to $60 million project, and we could get 10 or 15 that's needed from a private enterprise or developing part of it, then I'd be open to that, but it's not really the goal. Forest fire mitigation, I've talked to experts. They downplayed this to me. They said, that's not really that big of a deal. To me, I have land up at Rio Blanco. It sure looks like it's all going to burn sometime. There's a lot of good work that's being done right now to thin the forest, but just like South Fork, to me, this area is, it's unfortunately probably going to see a fire. And so to me, having like a 3,000 acre foot reservoir on that end of town where the helicopters could come in and, catch water, it seems reasonable. I've been told, that's not that big a deal, but alternate future water supply, especially in the event of contamination. I haven't fully studied it. I'm sure there's people in the room that know far more about it than me, but just my common sense tells me that the Weminuche is feeding a lot of our water supply. And over here south of the highway, up over here, we're probably away from, if there was a forest fire and a water contamination, perhaps that is a good alternate water source location. Future municipal water supply. Again, I know it's really difficult to build, to grow the population base here. Construction prices are really, really high. We're looking at an inflationary market. I just think it's going to be hard to add population here, but it still could be future municipal water supply. And I know a lot of people in the water world think long-term. I know I'm up here talking like kind of 10 years, but I know many think in 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And so under that mindset, I think a 3,000 acre foot reservoir would be very good. Next slide is showing just some 5 bullet point comparison between a 3,000 acre foot and like, let's say 11,000 acre foot that's been proposed. The first 3,000 acre feet, it's 125 acres plus or minus. That's the green line. It is all on the Running Iron Ranch property. There's minimal exposure to damage from structural failure. Now, in today's engineering and construction world, I don't really expect any dam to fail, but Pagosa is downstream, and so it's a minor consideration. I think there's a potential to fully fund it in 10 years, and it stays inside the park ditch. The park ditch, from what I understand, has some pretty extreme exposure to major costs to keep that park ditch up. And that's another kind of benefit of selling the ranch that, I mean, from what I've heard, there could be $3 to $4 million of, work that's required in the midterm on that ditch that, you all as current owners might avoid. So the 11,000 acre foot one, that's 282 acres approximately. It encroaches on private, I think Laverty and the US Forest Service. Those are potential issues, potential to flood the town. I'm not thinking that's a major issue. Unlikely funding to start for at least 20 to 50 years. Again, the funding of this expensive reservoir in mass, 6,000 acre feet, 11,000 acre feet, whatever has been discussed, the numbers are astronomical. And what I understand from the state of Colorado is that they're in the business of funding loans. They're not in the business of giving money away. And so at the end of the day, there has to be a business proposition for the use of the water. And then requires significant park ditch alterations. Next slide, please. This is a real quick slide. I just, my personal opinion is that I'd love to have a 3,000 acre foot reservoir designed to where, possibly large helicopters could get in so that any forest fire situation, whatever equipment is available, they could put the forest fire out or at least help. Next slide. Okay, so the Zipper Valley Ranch solution that I have here. Again, I'm proposing that the land for the reservoir would be, I'm proposing that it would be gifted, okay, through an easement for the reservoir. And we'll get into the specifics of that. What that allows is that the reservoir location is now financed at 0%. Right now it's financed through the state, and principal, interest, and penalties are accruing the longer that it goes. 100% control of the project by the district. Let me explain the district. I'm calling it the district, and I'm assuming that the district is PAWS, okay? The only reason I'm saying that is because I've had the most dialogue with PAWS. In the back of my mind, I would love for the district to be San Juan. But since I haven't had the benefit to have any dialogue with San Juan, I don't really know where San Juan stands on that. So my proposal at the end of the day is that that PAWS would take on the district role, and then we would work with San Juan or possibly some other government entity that might want to be the sponsor of the reservoir going forward. Zero cost for the reservoir site. And I have this management agreement that I'll have a full slide on. But my idea is that in closing and purchasing the property, we would sign back a management agreement with the district, let's say PAWS, for example, and it's at zero cost. So it's almost like a lease for the land, but there's no payments, okay? And all I'm asking for in the management agreement is that you basically carry forward the current responsibilities to design, engineer, price, fund, and then eventually construct the reservoir, okay? And I'll get into a little more detail than that in the management slide. And then I also have a concept where right now so I just said that I believe I can save a bare minimum going forward of $6.7 million by this concept. What I also think we'd be saving going back is there's a $3.2 million penalty that is to be paid. And so what I'm proposing in purchasing this ranch is I would pay $10.4 million. I would pay off all the principal. I would pay off all of the grant. I would pay all the back interest and back interest on the grant, back interest on both loans. And there would be no responsibility for anything beyond that. However, I'm asking PAWS to just work together with us to approach the state to see if they might be willing to take just the penalties, not the principal, and apply them back to the project and apply them to an account where that account is now a construction account. And let's say if San Juan assumes the district, then what we start out with day one is we have a 3,000 acre foot reservoir site at no cost, and we have up to $3.2 million in the bank. And to me, that is a much more robust proposition to approach grant writers. If we have, engineering, planning, cost, budget, schedule, $3.2 million in the bank, sounds great to me. I will tell you that I have talked to this Colorado Water District, and they are not opposed to that concept. They did not commit to the full 3.2 million, but there is a discussion to be had. Next slide. Okay. So the proposal and offering terms here, it's the ranch is 660.84 acres. We're only wanting the water rights that came with the ranch because they really should stay with the ranch. Those are like irrigation type rights. We're not asking for any other water rights that, you know, that San Juan may have. We're not asking for storage rights, none of that. Just whatever was purchased with the ranch stays with the ranch. And let's see, so $10.4 million, mentioned that. A couple things there is that we have potential for the grant and interest penalties to flow forward, which I just mentioned. There's the management agreement to the district, and mentioned again, possibly 3.2 million towards the reservoir construction. As is acceptance, that's I think also helpful to both parties that would be selling the property. I mentioned the park ditch, that's a huge exposure item. I mean, I'm not, who knows, it maybe 1 year, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, but there's significant improvements that I understand could be $3 or $4 million to the park ditch from the pipe. And then other miscellaneous repairs that are just kind of annual repairs that are a little bit deferred maintenance. So the ranch, in my opinion, has not been maintained properly. You know, I think the lessees think the owner should do it and the owner thinks the lessee should do it. I'm not going to take sides. The ranch is just has a lot of deferred maintenance. The properties, you know, the buildings need to be torn down. The weeds are a little bit out of control and the park ditch needs some repair. So, you know, there'd be some immediate savings to fence repair, park ditch, weed infestation, and maybe some other things that you all are aware of. You know, I mentioned I started this quite some time ago. My interest is to get this done by early July. I know we're sitting here very late May. Probably a lot of people think that's unrealistic. I mean, I think there are several ways to get it done, but that's kind of our timing. Next slide, please. So Zipper Valley Ranch, I touched on this in the beginning. Deep roots in Pagosa. We actually bought our first property up Mill Creek Road up at Rio Blanco back in 2008. That's when this property was purchased. So we have roots as long as this partnership on the land. We purchased 3 other properties that have various water works on it. One was a Zipper Valley Ranch in Texas, where we did some work with Mitigation Resources of North America on wetland work. We had a 50-acre property where we also did some wetland work, and then we had another ranch in Texas, 1,200 acres, where we worked with the Dixon Water Foundation to do some watershed conservation easements and things like that. So I'm not really new to water, although I'm no water expert. And then just here, you know, really what I'm trying to say here on these next 3 bullet points is that I'm good at getting things done. I'm kind of a workhorse. I do all the dirty work, all the busy work. I don't think anyone would have to do a whole lot. Kind of hands-on, roll my sleeves up kind of guy. And then this bottom bullet point is very important. I mean, I'm vested. You know, I intend to retire here. I have a passion for this project, and those of you that, you know, have had the ability to work with me on this, you've probably seen that. And I appreciate all of y'all that have spent time with me. I've got a lot of hours in this. Next slide. Okay, so the proposed management agreement. So really the idea here is that when the property closes, the district would have a management agreement where they take on the engineering, the designing, the partnerships for funding, and the overall project management of getting the reservoir to a construction state. And, you know, the term of this, I just made it a clean end of December 2035. That goes a little bit beyond the current planning period in the existing agreement. So not by much, but it does go beyond it. And so what I'm proposing is that we would gift this easement to the district, and the district responsibilities, and these are negotiable too. I mean, these are just my ideas. I'm very open to potato, okay? But the sole responsibility for doing those items, and I would like to see 50,000 a year put into paying probably a part-time grant writer and a part-time project manager So that, you know, let's say if it was the San Juan board, they would have the ability to be, in my opinion, successful. The board could direct those individuals, they can report back, here's what we've done. We're spending this amount of hours at this much per hour. It's a very simple spreadsheet and we could come up with a workable plan to actually advance this thing. And then all I'm asking for, and I don't really have to have this, but I just think it's helpful to be vested, is a biannual report, you know, to the landowner. Like, what are we doing? Like, just let me know. I'm here to help. And then secure design and construction funding. Landowner responsibilities, I'm also willing to be a good sport to put $10,000 toward it. Okay, so now we're at $60,000 a year. And grant the easement for the reservoir. If we're able to work something out together between three parties and San Juan did take on the district role, I'm not so sure that I couldn't come to PAWS and say, PAWS, would you all be good sports and throw 10,000 in a year? Because PAWS would have some benefit too if we got a 3,000 acre foot reservoir built for long-term water planning. Not putting words in your mouth, no one at PAWS has told me that, but it's just an idea. So somewhere between a $60,000 and $70,000 a year annual budget. And in my opinion, that's what could make this project move forward successfully. Okay. All right, so let's get to work. So this proposal sets forth the opportunity to do the following. Transfer focus and expenditures on an unnecessary lawsuit into a productive and actionable and achievable plan. I don't like I've sat on so many board meetings of both sides, and I hate seeing, you know, lawsuits are no fun. They're really not. I mean, I just hate to see all of these good people, in many cases are volunteers, putting quality time towards, you know, just poor direction. And so I think that's a real benefit to get negative energy channeled towards positive energy. Number two, financial restart. Eliminate extensive debt, punitive penalties that'll accrue for the next 9 years. You know, again, it's what did I say? It was $6.7 million in savings at least over the duration of the remainder of the planning period. Private to public donation, again for reservoir. Who doesn't like that? Potential to fund over 3.2 million immediately towards the reservoir construction account. You know, I don't know if the state would agree to that full amount, but there's some amount in there that I think is achievable. And maybe it would be the full amount. And again, that is not a requirement of the deal. I'm still purchasing the ranch for the same price. I just want to try to get the 4 parties together. We now include Colorado Water to get them to participate in. Everyone would like to see this reservoir be a success. I haven't talked to anyone that doesn't want a reservoir, right? And then allow for a certain path to, you know, basically eliminate the lawsuit. Okay. Because that, you know, the lawsuit has a very uncertain path. This is a certain path. Okay, so benefit the district, which quote, again, potentially San Juan. I'm not trying to put words into San Juan's mouth. I just, you know, I think it'd be great if they could be the district. Free reservoir site, I don't want to dwell on that. Sole owner of the easement and all of the water storage rights. No threat of a PAWS sale in the next 1 or 2 years if lawsuit wraps up and something else happens. And, you know, what are the chances of someone else like me coming along that's willing to pay, you know, above appraisal price and give away 125 acres? I mean, I just don't know if people like me, crazy people like me, come around every day. It's expensive lawsuit, you know, who knows what estimates are, but it could easily be 200,000 or more. Could be invested in a reservoir account. Potential, you know, participation from the state. Buildable reservoir, which could be constructed within 10 years. Now, could it be finished in 10 years? I don't think so, but I think around 10 years we could launch. Avoid likely cost of lawsuit. And, you know, I think water rights are in jeopardy. From what I understand, you know, the public is not only doesn't only have a loss of the $6.7 million, there's water rights, storage rights that are at risk if something doesn't get worked out. Next slide. So what is the benefit to PAWS? Future customer debt payments of $2 million are eliminated. Potential for right size reservoir, expensive lawsuit is eliminated, refocus on core infrastructure issues. I'm sure that this board is ready to, you know, kind of get this thing settled, right? And not talk about a feud for another year or two. And I'm offering resolution in less than 2 months. So next slide. The community, so the community has a free reservoir site. It would be the largest reservoir site or the largest reservoir if it was constructed in all of Large Lake County, from what I understand. Potential for right size reservoir for all the reasons I described: fire protection, alternate water source, and future water supply. Practical reservoir, which can appeal and can be built in 10 years. And this next slide is kind of a specific request for the pause board, and it's a little bit maybe sharp just because we started, you know, in the fall of last year, and now here I have a time frame of July. And so I guess what I'm asking the board is to consider all the benefits that I've gone through today. Instruct the Running Iron Ranch Committee to finalize the contract of sale and management agreement with Pause as the district, seek court approval for the contract of sale, close in early July, and commence, you know, discussions with San Juan as early as possible. And it doesn't have to go in this order. I mean, the discussions with San Juan could start, you know, tomorrow morning. And then, you know, I think, so that's my request. And I know it's a little bit, you know, sharp, but I have been working on this for a while, and at some point I need to, you know, focus my efforts elsewhere if it's just doesn't look like it has any merit. So that's really all I have for you. I appreciate you hearing me out. I appreciate all the time that everyone has spent to help me understand what's going on. I'm really trying to make it a win-win. There's nothing about this that is, you know, honestly, for a guy like me to pay $10.3 million for this ranch, it's a nice ranch. That's why I'm here, but it's not like you know, it's not a you know, special deal. So I'd like to open it up to questions, comments from, I assume, the board here or anyone here from the public.
Maybe just for those who are unaware of certain things, that there'll be absolutely no decision made tonight. This is just a proposal out there for the public. And, you know, this is the first time several of us board members have seen the proposal. So I guess first I'd ask, are there any thoughts, concerns, questions from the board, including Glenn?
I've got a question real quick. So, you mentioned in there that I hear 10 years multiple times on getting it started. If there's no progress after 10 years, are you gonna take back the 125 acres?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, and I was, you know, there's a lot of more details I could put in here. But what I'm suggesting in the management agreement, which I'm happy to share with anyone, it's drafted and ready to discuss.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to be very reasonable, because I don't want to be put in a situation where the next 10 years is like the prior 17 years. Okay.
I understand.
So very few requirements. One requirement, and this is all negotiable, but one requirement is that at a minimum of 2 funding, you know, partner/grant requests would be made in each calendar year. No requirement to make them, just submit at least 2. That's very reasonable. Second requirement is that we raise $1.5 million every 3 years for each of the 3-year periods. So call it 9 years. And the reason I didn't want to put an annual requirement is we might have a COVID event, or we might just have a year that's weird, or you know, whatever. So I think 3-year increments are very reasonable. And $1.5 million over a 3-year period is very low. And if we're shooting for a budget that is at a bare minimum $40 million, and at the end of 9 years, we've only raised 4.5, then that's really just to make sure that we're not sitting on our hands. And those are the 2 requirements.
I'm kind of, what's the word, excited, I guess, or happy that you've already talked to Colorado Water Conservation Board and at least got a positive feeling from those discussions. Like you said, no promises, but
Right.
Boy, that's a big deal. And it certainly sounds like you've done your homework, Trey.
I've tried.
And I personally appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Bill? I don't have a whole lot of questions because our subcommittee worked with Trey starting back in November, December. Helping bring up ideas that could be brought forward to the two districts. So I'm also pretty impressed with what could happen instead of a continuing lawsuit. If the two districts could sit down in the next couple of weeks and have a really heart conversation about getting a reservoir built. I'll think some more and see if I have any questions.
Yeah, and the size of the reservoir has, for any progress to be made, to actually design, engineer, price, approach, fund, that's the first step. Like, what is the size of the reservoir? And I haven't talked to anyone that has an argument for over, really, it's less than 3,000 acre feet.
New kid on the block, BJ,
So I am the new kid on the block. This is the very first meeting and the very first I've heard of any of this. So that's, so everything you said came with the gifting of the land. So is this offer contingent on a partnership with the reservoir, or is the reservoir a portion that you're willing to offer as kind of an offering? So is it?
It's an offering, yes.
So you'll buy the land
And
with no reservoir contingency, whatever.
correct.
But this is kind of, okay, it's not, okay.
Yeah, it's me saying this, that I will continue the spirit of the planning period, and a little bit longer. But let's decide on the size of the reservoir and let's get a few thresholds, reasonable minimum thresholds that need to be done, because I'm not a good partner for something that doesn't progress. So as long as there's effort and progress, then to me, that's great.
So could you mentioned the idea that if there was $3 million in an account
Mm-hmm.
dedicated to the reservoir,
Right.
not to ranch development, but to the reservoir itself, that might look really good to potential foundations, granting agencies. Have you actually talked to people and said, and they have told you, oh, this is really going to help your granting applications? Or is that just a thought you have?
It's a thought that I have. I will tell you, when I got early in on this, I did a little bit of research and found several what I thought were very appropriate grants that were out there. And no one said if you have $3 million in the bank versus zero in the bank that you would be more successful. I just personally feel that when you're presenting your project perspective, that I just think it would help. That's my personal opinion.
Two more just so I'm
So Glenn, are you in? Do you have any questions?
No, well, maybe I have a question at the end of a statement. One is I want to say that this is essentially the same proposal that was made in contractual form. If a person was willing to read that contract with kind of less than a very kind of meager oppositional spirit. I was impressed with the proposal, but I was even more impressed, I guess formally I'd call him Mr. Fricke, but Trey, when I spoke with him, just how genuine he was, how willing he was to make PAWS whole, whatever our outstanding debt was, he was willing to make that whole. And really how he had a personal passion for kind of getting us out of this kind of oppositional quagmire and actually building a reasonably sized reservoir. And but this wasn't our selling the reservoir to somebody who just wanted to make it a ranch, in which case we'd make that decision and San Juan would object and we would fight that out. This was really Trey wanting to enter into a very long-term relationship with San Juan. And that's why we recommended that he show them the respect of presenting it directly to them. The result was that he was treated dismissively in an embarrassing fashion. I'm not trying to throw a hand grenade here, but some truths need to be said. He wasn't even allowed to speak to the board. One prominent member of the board, a former president, called him a Texas carpetbagger without even having spoken to the gentleman. And I think you see tonight just what we saw 6 months ago, and I wish we had an additional 6 months here. So I just want to thank Trey for sticking with it, for showing incredible emotional maturity and patience, being publicly insulted, and pushing this project and pushing it out and contacting members of the Colorado Water Conservation Board and the Southwestern Board and trying to pull together some real energy to make this happen, which has not happened for the last 17 years. And the only context I'm going to give is I was elected to the board 2012. One of our first meetings, we decided that we really didn't need Dry Gulch for our long-term water demand, certainly not a 19,000 acre foot facility. And we were looking to sell the property. And we were approached and they said, listen, San Juan came to us and said, let's try a different approach. Let's try a partner approach. This could be a very valuable facility, maybe in small part for PAWS, but in large part for the state and maybe the federal government. And that was 13 years ago. And in the last 13 years, we have received from San Juan exactly 0 correspondence of any potential majority or even significant minority partner who wanted to become part of this reservoir project. And if you look at San Juan budgets, since we entered into the agreement in 2015, San Juan has, and they're not easy to get, but San Juan has won exactly $0 of grants. For Dry Gulch, I mean, they have grants for making movies and things like that, but 0 for Dry Gulch. And now this gentleman is walking in, willing to pay more than the market price and give 125 acres, I mean, the prettiest heartland of that ranch, to the community to build a rational reservoir. And if we don't act on this, I mean, what fools are we? I guess that's all I have to say.
Well, and Bill, I don't want to, I'm a very glasses half full. I like everyone, and I don't want to get in the middle of a disagreement. But I do feel that PAWS does have the ability to sell the ranch. I mean, I've studied it. I've had an attorney study it. I mean, you all have done everything. You followed, everything that you're supposed to do. You decided to sell the ranch. You obtained an appraisal. You sent the appraisal to the state. State had 90 days to respond. That's passed. And I believe I would love for San Juan to get cooperative here. But if they're not willing to get cooperative, I believe we have the ability to get in front of a judge and have the judge approve this contract. Because the judge will look at the underlying reason for the restructure agreement. And the underlying reason was to build 12,000 acre feet or whatever. And they will imply reasonableness as to the intent of the document. And you will not be expected to use every effort. Doesn't mean that Bill has to send, his entire family and everyone he knows to, picket. I mean, it's reasonable. And you all have been very reasonable. You've paid $250,000 a year for a very long time. You've been very reasonable. And so I hope that it doesn't get to that, but it's my belief that 9 out of 10 judges would see it that way.
Well, I mean, the other question I would make is, the other opinion that I would give is this is a 3,000 acre foot reservoir located within the ditch, which really simplifies the design and the engineering. But if San Juan's kind of white whale is this 11,000 acre foot facility, which if you look at the prices at Bolt Lake up in Minturn, is a $500 million facility. I mean, you're going to have to hope that the federal government or the state government decides to drop $400 million in Archuleta County. While we pursue this path for a reasonable size reservoir, which is kind of that fits, that's a right fit for our community, if the federal government were to come in and say, you know what, we want to make that a 12,000 acre foot facility for your community, and we're going to drop $400 million on it, would you necessarily stand in the way of that? As long as you'd still have 400 acres of ranch.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know how many years, I mean,
Right.
we're thinking in terms of 30, 40, 50 years, which goes into my kids and who knows. But
Right.
I would say whoever owns this ranch in 30 years, if they have a 3,000 acre foot reservoir and now 11,000 acre foot, I bet through eminent domain or cooperation, the reservoir could still be built. You know, I will say that Night Horse is a beautiful reservoir, right? But they're not using that water. That they just happen to have a very weird deal. So that all of the cost and expense of Night Horse, none of it's being recouped. From what I understand, the water is not even used. I mean, it's great for paddle boarding and recreation, but I don't think there's any real municipal or agricultural use for that water. It's not real easy. I mean, I've dug deep enough to find that it's not easy. So yeah, I do think that 50 years down the road, this doesn't mean that 11,000 acre foot reservoir couldn't happen on this site. And there's no promises, but eminent domain does exist.
I was at Night Horse Reservoir earlier this week. And I think you're right. It's big and it's beautiful and there's a few fish in there. My wife loves to paddleboard, but that's an awful expensive reservoir for fish and paddleboarding.
Mhm.
And I think, you know, there's the emotional side to this discussion, and then there's the, I'll call it non-emotional, I guess. And I kind of go back to your page that says review of San Juan Headwaters project. And especially for the people, you know, either online or in the room that aren't familiar with the basis of why the larger acre foot reservoir was envisioned. It all started because somebody thought in 2040, there's going to be almost 36,000 people in this community. All of these folks, and I know all of them personally, I've been here 48 years or something like that. I know most of these people personally. Their intentions, I'm sure, were pure. Maybe somewhat uninformed or I don't know the exact reason, but you know, if you look at that page, this reservoir was sized for, you know, 36,000 people. Not gonna happen in everybody's lifetime in this room, I would guess. So it's kind of a reality check. What most of the people I talk to are ratepayers. They don't know a whole lot about it. They read, you know, online stuff. They read the local paper and they talk to board members and things like that. And so they ask questions. And I guess I would have to say most of the people I've talked to, and it's quite a bunch, you know, do we need a reservoir? Or yeah, a reasonable size, because a lot of these are former firefighters and forest service workers and all these people. Yeah, but, and then they look at the proposed cost that the larger reservoir would cost, and you said it yourself. And this board and San Juan, in my opinion, should be looking at the words, does it pencil out? And a large reservoir for $400 million for that many people, et cetera, does not pencil out for all of our voters. So again, you know, you've got that emotional side and the other side.
Well, then to tie into what Gene's saying too is not only were they saying there was gonna be 36,000 people, but we were gonna be using double the water per household that we're actually using right now.
Right.
So I think this opportunity is never gonna happen
The
again.
needs were for 500 acre feet. It wasn't for the, but there was a supply margin that was extreme. I would also add that I've been cautioned that this 3,000 acre foot reservoir, when done, this is probably not gonna look like Night Horse. Like, I've been cautioned many times that the way, with, years of not so much rainfall, that this doesn't look like Night Horse. Like it's, a little bit swampy, cattails, maybe not that much water in it, at times. So it's not like, you're gonna be sitting on the edges of Night Horse. Night Horse is very beautiful. They're not using the water. It's giant. I mean, it's like, it's giant, so
It's also 290 feet. It's also was selected by engineers because topographically it was ideal for a reservoir. It's 290 feet. It has an average depth of 90 feet. This reservoir would have an average depth of 17 feet, which would be totally in the phototropic zone. It would just make it a very difficult, project. But I just wanted to point out again that, that the old board did a lot of very smart things. And one was they were almost first to put in place really aggressive conservation pricing. At the same time, they were planning a very, very large reservoir. Remember, originally it was 35,000 acre feet, a population of 200,000 people. And the customers have really responded. And the average usage is really 50%, maybe 55% of what it had typically been. And we have been, even though, and the other idea was we spent $10 million to expand Stevens from 700 to 1,776 acre feet. We have not we should, but we have not yet even connected Stevens to an effective water plant. We run the whole district, even though population has increased dramatically, not from Hatcher, but one half of Hatcher. And we have effectively, for 25 years, we've run it off 800 acre feet of storage. So we have another almost 1,800 acre feet to connect at Stevens. And at that point, we might be, you're talking 20, 30 years down the road, a minor, but maybe a significant minor partner in a right-sized reservoir in 2050 or 2060. I hope this can happen. Unfortunately, the timeline is so compressed. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm wondering, I guess that's my other question for Trey, is if we were to go ahead and work out a purchase agreement as at least the provisional district quoted, with the idea of then transferring that to San Juan if they would decide to take on the role as being the district. Is there really any sense that you could get a court date in the short term to get that ratified? My understanding is that it just takes a year to get a court date, to get an actual review.
Well, I'm not an attorney by any means, but I think a simple summary judgment or something could probably get a pretty quick hearing. And
well, I would hope. My suspicion is maybe, and I'm willing to, to operate a little bit on hope. I mean, hope is not it can be a partial strategy sometimes, but absent, say, the CWCB and the Southwestern Board and principals at San Juan saying, hey, this is our best path, pretty soon this might be difficult to turn by, July 11th or something like that.
Right, and I would just hate, for everyone to look back and realize, wow, wish we would have done that. Now, inflation kicks in or whatever, and property values diminish, and the pause keeps paying the $250,000 a year. The interest deferrals continue to build. I don't, and I wish we could get together with San Juan, but I've had to now just approach it without San Juan, directly with Paz, because that's the only venue that I have. I would be very willing to meet with San Juan as early as, not tomorrow morning because I'm busy, but early next week, and would love to have dialogue. Would love for you all to have dialogue with them. All three of us have dialogue, but based on the lack of dialogue, I just feel like this is the only way to try to get it done for us.
How hard is the July date? Cause I know obviously you've been dragged
Yeah.
along. I understand that. But how hard, I know you want it to be, but I'm just saying like.
Well,
like there.
So, yeah, so I sold a ranch in Texas, so there's a thing called a 1031 tax exchange where you can purchase another property without paying tax, and so that's my deadline for that. So that's what makes really me able to step up and, you know, do all these things, is that I have a little bit of a tax benefit under that time frame. And you know, I just think that I just have to reevaluate the deal if it goes past that date. I'm not saying that we couldn't still figure something out, but it might be a slightly different price. I'm stretching as far as I can to try to make that date.
Well, we do have other things on our agenda,
Yes.
but would wonder if there's any questions from those here in attendance.
It was a good presentation. Thank you, Trey.
Oh, thank you, sir, and I appreciate your time. Chuck and
Yeah,
I spent
I've got a
some
question.
talking, so appreciate that.
Would the proposed reservoir property be open for public access?
No, sir.
Are you interested in buying the ranch without a reservoir possibility?
Yes, yeah, I'm just throwing that out to allow the vision of, you know, the reservoir to have, you know, go beyond the, extending the planning period, you know, so.
You guys gotta buy or sell it. What I say.
Would the,
You gotta buy or, you guys gotta sell it. This thing's been an anchor around a noose around your neck for 17 years. Bill's been badly publicizing the phone forever. You gotta buy or sell it. That's all I'm saying.
would the reservoir be used for your livestock on a ranch?
You know, I don't know. I mean, there's probably so many better ways to water livestock. You know, when you get livestock into the ditch or into the lake, it just creates problems. I would think you would feed or water livestock from a tank. Just been my experience. So, yeah, I mean, they just muddy them up and, you know, just kind of a mess. I would think not. And the only reason I was so kind of quick on the public access, it just turns it into a whole nother thing. I mean, insurance and, you know, people driving through, and I have nothing against public access. I personally feel like there is so much public access around here, but that's not in short supply. If I felt like there was not a place for the public to recreate in this area, I would try to make it a win-win for the public too, and, you know, have that as part of the plan. I just don't think it's an important ingredient. And you get the public in the ranch and, you know, they leave open gates and, you know, a bull runs someone over. It's just not a conducive environment.
Well, just to be clear, public access was basically used as the tool to essentially sabotage the Hidden Valley Reservoir, which would have been 6,000 to 7,000 acre feet of gravity-fed water for a substantial discount. We do not provide public access on the aforementioned Stevens Reservoir. So,
and I never saw public access in any document I read, and I read, you know, documents this thick on the Red Iron Ranch.
And there's a way to reach public access. That would be if the community really wanted to buy the ranch. If San Juan and the county and the town wanted to, you know, present some joint funding opportunity to buy the ranch and create a magnificent Archuleta Park with a centerpiece lake in the middle, and wanted to spend, you know, $80 million on that, but I don't think there's appetite for that either. So I don't think you should feel, I mean, you're buying a ranch at more than market and making available 125 acres, the heart of the prettiest part of the ranch, for free, and willing to like invest your time and energy in helping to make the project happen. I don't think you should have to, you know, provide some reasons why it's also not going to turn into a park. So.
Yeah, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Southwest Water Board that I'm sitting on, but everybody keeps saying 17 years. I want to remind people, this has been going on since 1990. And you had a similar offer on Hidden Valley, and these two boards played around and decided public access, filed, all kinds of weird motions, got it mixed themselves, and they walked away they lost that deal where the land was gonna be given to them. And some help, and free water rights for there. And then now to have this, listen to these same stories and somebody willing to step forward and go forward. I know there's many people have other options for the land out there, but the reality of it is the two boards are looking for, they're not recreation boards. Those two boards are for about water rights and water storage. And don't take a gift horse to the mouth twice. I mean, this would be sad to walk away from again. But it's been 35 years, this isn't 17 years. This is 35 years of dinking around, playing the same game. And every couple of years, 3 or 4 new people get on boards and they have a new vision and they lose sight what the original intent was for water storage. And, I don't know what the right size is, but this sounds like the right size to me.
Carl Young is wanting to comment as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to ask 3 questions. One, how are you going to make profit from this? Obviously, you're not in this, as a foundation to do something great for Archuleta County. What is your how are you going to profit from this? Question 2 is, how can we as members of the public guarantee that you'll fulfill your responsibilities? We've had other developers come in here, like about the old county courthouse, made lots of promises, and we don't have a new courthouse, and the free rent apparently is going away. So just how can we, hold your feet to the fire on that? And also, would you would you restart the gravel mining on the ranch? Thanks.
Okay. All right. So profit, that one's easy. I would not profit. Ranches are not profitable. I've run ranches ever since I was 22 years old. And I think I ran a profit 1 year. So it's kind of a hobby. Call me crazy, but I work to have cows and horses. And that's my hobby. So it would not be profitable. It would actually probably cost me as much to run it as it would cost me 3 or 4 times to run it as what it's costing you to run it, because I would just be a bit of a perfectionist on fencing and weed control and all that good stuff. As far as holding accountable, so the contract of sale that I've presented, it has attached to it a management agreement, which is very clear. That management agreement has an easement agreement attached to it that all flows together. So the management agreement goes with the contract. It can be filed, the management agreement can be filed a record with the property, and the easement is also attached to the management agreement. So I would say that through the attorneys of Paz and San Juan, and we could make everyone comfortable that this isn't a promise, this isn't just a letter, this is documents that are filed in the court records. And again, this is my business, real estate. I'm not here to outsmart anyone. I'm here to help understand how to get something done. So those are all drafted and ready to review. And then the third one, the gravel, that one's also easy. So thank you for 3 easy questions. It's my understanding that there's no gravel left. I think that I actually know Andy Weber. He's done work for me in the past, and I think that they've mined just about all of the gravel that you could mine in a place. I think there's maybe a couple very small places that are not really worth it. And so, no, I would not. Now, I would say the only caveat to that is if the property itself needed some road work, then it's very practical to try to harvest your own gravel for your own roads. But to mine and sell gravel or rock. Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Those are easy.
Any other questions or comments?
Just, I'm taking it all in and appreciate the discussion and, I think it's important to deal with some of the facts, and one of the facts, 50 years ago, there were, 3,000 people living in Archuleta County, not Pogosa, Archuleta County, 3,000 people. 50 years later, 2025, we have 15,000 people on the rolls for Archuleta County. That's 5 times. If we go forward 5 times for another 50 years, that's 2075. That's 75,000 people here. If you look at 1988, we had 5,120 in Archuleta County. That's 3 times to get to 15 in the 37 years we've been screwing around with it. Still under where you can supply and have been, and I love PAW's work. You guys are doing a great job. I'm just saying that another 37 years, put it 2062, that would put 45,000 people here. Now, how could that ever happen? And I appreciate that seems unlikely, but it seemed unlikely from 3,000 to 15,000 50 years ago. Can you imagine how unlikely that seemed to those 3,000 people? There's new air service going into Durango, new terminal been built. More people are coming here. The economics says to recreate, to get here from Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, all of those places is much cheaper than going other places. Are we going to see more people? Yes. And if you look, it's not hit a dog leg yet, but we all felt the price of our homes go up after the inflationary, government fiscal spending during COVID. And we're going to see, I don't know what the future economically is, but this has attracted a lot of people that bid prices up for some second homes and all the rest of it. Well, what happens with second homes is people move there, retire, sell their property back home. So in order to maintain a stable housing, you're going to need more water for the additional, whatever the number turns out to be. My point is, we don't know from looking back what's coming. And you can't judge what the people landing here are going to need. It's not hard to throw people into Aspen Springs for 3,000 to 10,000 people, and they've got wells, and that's okay. That worked for a lot of people. But when the well water dries up, it's got to come from surface water. When the surface water runs down faster and is gone off the top of the mountain, the reservoir of all that snow and ice is no longer up there for July, August, September runoff. We've already peaked. Normal peak is at the river runoff. We've already peaked. We peaked last week. Normally, and within the last 10 years, it's peaked on average at the end of June. So the recreation that people come here, and let's face this is a recreational town. That is what it is. The reason you love it, the reason I love it, the reason we moved here and stay here is it's a recreational town with gorgeous scenery and great weather. Well, we got here, other people are going to come. You've got 7,000 taps on the PAWS connection. That 7,000 taps doesn't service 15,000 people. It serves a lot of those people. I don't know what the number of bodies served by the 7,000 taps are, but you're going to have to expand. As you expand, as population grows, you don't have the water rights to feed that. You're claiming they have to go buy the water rights and bring it if a developer comes in. I mean, I've heard that in your board meetings. So here is an opportunity with the water rights to expand PAWS to be able to do this servicing over the longer term. And it's our position as the San Juan board that our long-term planning, 20 to 30 and 40 years out, 50 as max, is to take a look at what not recent history was, because it's really good. You've done a great job. That's not a projection of going forward, because multiplying 3x times or 5x times 3,000 isn't the same as 5x times 15,000. Suddenly you went from 3 to 15, no problem. But 15 to 75 is a very, very large jump. And if that in fact happens, where are you gonna get the water? I guarantee you the $1,200 an acre foot that's being sold on the market, on the Colorado water market, adjusted every week. There's bids for acre feet of storage, and the guys in the Front Range are paying a lot of money. What can PAWS do to buy, or any developer do to buy? And it may be a self-eating watermelon. It may be that we can't afford to tell anybody they can have water when they want to move here and build. There can't be something up at Wolf Creek. Why? There's no water up there. They don't have the water rights. I mean, just go to what, it's all water. And building a reservoir at 7,400 feet evaporates less water and allows everybody downstream, whether it's the ranchers, the recreationalists, new people that aren't here yet, new business that wants to operate out of here that needs water. We don't even know. There could be a Bitcoin operation over here between us and Durango. And they want to, who knows what, we don't know what's coming is my point. And so that was the planning. I'm just addressing JR's. We have skirted around. We haven't gotten anywhere. I couldn't agree more. The question is whether or not 3,000 isn't, my only point in all of that wasn't reservoir, no reservoir. My point was, what's the sizing? And so in all of this discussion, both from your board and everybody that's made comments and thoughts that are happening around, I think that the contracting, if this were to come to a contract, you need language in there that he agrees to, that we would agree to. Because if you take that perspective, you should take a look at how big is it going to be. He pulled a number, everybody pulled numbers. Hell, at one point it was 75,000 acre feet. Isn't that right, JR? Somebody had some big ass number back. 45,000.
But it wasn't at that location.
No, right. But the numbers.
In the interest of saving time, I really appreciate your comments. But we do have other things on the agenda.
If I could just give a little context. In 2000,
I think we have enough context.
in 2000, well, there's some claims were made, and I think some facts need to be put to them, and I'll be very quick. One is that in 2000, we had 9,000 residents, and it was estimated with second homeowners and tourists, we had an average daily population of 12,000. In 2025, we have a population of 15,000, and it's estimated with the growth of tourism and also the intensification of the short-term rental market, we have an average population close to 25,000, and we are selling the exact same amount of water in total as we were in 2000. And whatever growth happens in Archuleta County, it's not going to happen on the old model of single-family homes on 1 acre. It's going to happen in condominiums and much different planning environments. So these scare tactics that we're going to run out of water when we haven't even run up an effective pipe to a 1,800 acre foot reservoir we have right there at Stevens is just not persuasive. So
Yeah, I'd like to close things off. Just a couple of quick thoughts, and then we're going to move on in the agenda. There's a lot of talk about growth. Who knows the numbers? I said this at the last meeting, and now we're getting a little bit into treatment. But this water district, all water districts, cannot serve two masters. We have no choice to serve the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and the United States Environmental Protection Agency. And that gets into all kinds of chemical things and equations and stuff that I don't want to bore you with. Also, you mentioned Aspen Springs or wherever. It's always been the position that growth will pay its own way. The healthiest financially, physically, everything, the best growth we can have is infill. And that goes back to water quality. Every single faucet served by PAWS has to meet certain specifications. The further we go out on these different places makes it extremely difficult for us to do that. So infill is where we hope the growth will happen, or at least I personally. And keep in mind that a new reservoir isn't the only solution. There are water rights out there that could be available. The San Juan River, there's just more out there. And that's why I think PAWS has a very diverse portfolio, 4 Mile, the San Juan, different water plants. We have a very well-written emergency response plan that says, if there's a fire somewhere up in Wolf Creek, what do we do as a water district? If there's an earthquake, a tsunami, all of these things that we actually had to address. More just one sentence. There's not going to be a tsunami here, crazy things like that. But so think about that when you're thinking about growth, how realistic the numbers are. And again, no decisions are going to be made tonight. We do very much appreciate your attendance here and your thoughts and your comments. And now we're going to move on to our next agenda item. Again, thank you very, very much for showing up.
Yeah, thank you
Greg,
so much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the great questions.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
You mind if we disrupt you while we leave?
Sorry. No worries. Okay, next on the agenda is the consideration of the mainline extension agreement with the town of Pagosa Springs. I believe you all have had the opportunity anyway to see a copy. I will share mine with BJ.
No, I have an extra copy. Do you need mine?
No, I can share with.
Bill, do you have yours on your computer?
I have
Is
this.
it your board packet?
I have this, the mainline extension.
Yep, okay,
I think that's what I have.
okay.
It's double-sided.
You want to take
So,
this one or?
Sure. I'll start. Thanks again, Trey.
Thank you, Trey. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So, the mainline extension agreement we do with all developers that are going to extend one of our main lines. Basically what it is, it's a contract. And if we then build that mainline extension, and then it requires them to do certain things before PAWS takes ownership of it. So until everything's done, they own it. If it breaks, they own it. If anything happens, they own it. And so that's really all this is, but due to the fact that there's this time crunch, that they want to do a couple things out of order. And so because of that, we added a couple requirements for the town to do because of that out of order, and a couple of clarifications because we're not getting everything done. And so if you look at section 2A going on down, that's what everything else is just the stuff that Marcus that you always together a couple of years ago that we've been doing with any mainline extension. And so it's gonna require a final inspection and approval by the.
Where are we? Where are we?
2A.
Page
2A?
Section
Section
2, section 2.
Receive a final inspection and approval by the district for compliance with the rules and regulations. Okay, and that's required with all of them, so that's really not any different. We're just really clarifying to the town. Any easements that's required?
So is this a question before you go any further? Does A happen to B? Or
Not
do they
necessarily,
happen
they just have to do it. They just have to get all these things done. They gotta, every one of these things has to happen or you don't take ownership of it.
Okay, not in any certain order.
Not in any certain
Not
order.
necessarily, but
Yeah. They gotta give us the property, which is usually done by a quick claim. They gotta provide us a warranty bond. So it basically says, if anything breaks in the next 2 years, this warranty bond is gonna fix it. And it's renewed, so if something breaks in a year and a half, then that 2 years starts over again. And if something breaks in another year and a half, it starts over again. So it could go on forever if things keep breaking. So this assures that we're not getting handed a piece of junk. I thought we were the cash deposit thing.
you have a copy that still has the cash deposit.
Oh, yeah, okay. So-
Okay, sorry.
So mine's a little different than you guys. Okay.
That's it shouldn't be too much different though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to say a warranty bond or a cash deposit.
Yeah.
With them, this is such an expensive one, $30,000 doesn't cover anything, so he said you're gonna put a warranty bond on it. Record all deeds and easements, as-built plans, I think there's a lot of different on this one for some reason.
Here, I'm sitting here, you want me to give you my copy?
You want,
Yeah, let me just do it off the top of my head, what I forgot. Here's what he added to it. They have to have engineered plans, it has to be done anyway. They're gonna still have to run the model. Remember, that was the big argument, they want to run the model. It's gonna be done after. And the reason we're gonna make them run the model is two reasons. One, we have another 1,000 feet of line, we need to know what it's doing. But we also have to update that model, and they should pay for that, not us. So they're still gonna have to run the model. We also really clarified any construction costs due to this thing, they're paying for. So even if they go to tie onto our line and our line is so old that it just crumbles, that the whole line has to be replaced, they're responsible for it. We're just really clarifying that we're not gonna pay for anything that happens out there.
where is that? Where is that part?
It's in there somewhere. The one I got from.
It's in there twice. It's in there in two spots.
Mhm.
Where?
To be.
To be?
To be. And then also,
The to be for me says that we run,
Water
we
model.
run a water model.
mhm.
2E talks about repair.
2E, are we talking about 2E?
It talks about repairs, replacements, relocations,
Mhm.
and or upgrades to the existing district infrastructure deemed necessary.
Okay, so that's where that is.
Okay, I found that guy.
Sorry, I was in the water model. The water model speaks that is to be,
Okay,
and then all of the
so
repairs.
QD is any and all repairs, replacements, relocations, and or upgrades to existing district infrastructure deemed necessary by the district's sole discretion shall be paid by the developer.
Okay.
So that's where that's at. Any repairs, replacements, relocations, or upgrades do cause by damage when they're putting it in, they're gonna pay for it.
Okay.
We're gonna do a final, we're gonna do the inspections.
Mhm.
They're gonna have to provide a district, you guys, an agreement between the fire department, taking on all liability for flows.
And that is not in your copy right now?
Yes, it
because-
is.
Is it?
It's 2G.
Is it two
That's
G?
2G, yeah.
Oh, okay, then, I did add it, okay. We're not exactly sure what that's looking like just yet, but we will brief you right after Dustin's done with our discussion with the fire department.
Yeah, our attorney's working with them right now.
We're working with them
But,
right
and
now.
if the thing is, because of this, if we can't come to an agreement, we never take ownership of it.
Right. Okay.
Easements, then the bill of sale, the warranty bond, I think that's about all we added, right, Renee?
Yes, well, the warranty bond and the bill of sale are standard.
They're standard, that's.
The rights of way and the pagosa, so the more unique provisions are any and all repairs, replacements, relocations. D and E are more unique to this set of circumstances because of the timing. Because they didn't go through our normal processes, where we have a lot of back and forth and a lot of dialogue, and because the fire department may potentially sign off on all those hydrants having lesser fire flow than they would have originally dictated.
One more thing we may want to add, I just want to do this, any delays caused to the Highway 160 project due to this, any liquidated damages due to delays caused of this, so we put on the town, we may want to add that, because I have a feeling this is gonna delay the highway project, and they're gonna try to blame it on us, so we may want to add it as well.
Again, all new here. I tie into the main line, I extend it. I do faulty work. I've heard numbers as high as we're losing 60% of our water flow just in leaks alone.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying I've heard it, so I'm not saying it's right, I'm just saying I've heard.
It's not that far off.
Yeah, but
30%.
So anyway, and then all of a sudden I put in this line, it's faulty. I don't do things in a timely manner, which I'm not being mean, but town, county, all that good stuff are really good at not doing stuff in a timely manner. Hence, we're getting this late. And then all of a sudden it's flowing. Paying for that water.
Yeah, we're taking a risk on this. There's no doubt about it. If we accept this, we're taking a risk because you're right. If there's a, and then so if you put in a faulty plug in your house.
Yeah,
And
it's on me.
we go turn it off.
Yeah.
We have no way to turn this off. So that is the risk that we're taking. Even if we don't take ownership of that, there's water squirting out all over the place. It's going, but so what we do now though, is we have plans, we're required to be designed by a professional engineer.
Right.
We review those plans. They have to meet our design and our standards and details, and we inspect the system. We inspect it before we hook it up. So now we're making sure that we're putting in the correct pipe. We're making sure that it's tied in correct. We're making sure it's bedded. We'll make sure it's shaded. We're doing all that. I don't think that was done 40 years ago.
Well, absolutely.
So that's what we're doing to protect us, to minimize that. And in this case, we're even going a little step further. We're putting in HDPE fused pipe. We're not allowing PVC because it's under that highway. And if we put a 10-inch deck on that highway, if it starts leaking, we're never gonna find it. You're never gonna find that leak. So it has to be
hit
bomb. So
And I guess, again, so why can't we, since it's a new extension, and proposedly, I'm just saying, why can't we just build in the extra to put a shut off or something?
we can, if that's what
I mean,
we're.
Yeah, can we put one on either end of the,
Yeah.
at least that one?
Why would we not do that? I guess is my question. I mean, obviously,
We,
cost-wise, it's gonna have some cost.
so for the long line that's gonna happen, that we can, and we probably should, it's a good idea, we can do that, we just make sure it's on the engineered plans. So there's a line that goes underneath the highway and branches off and goes to the hydrants, we really don't wanna put a valve underneath that highway. So that one we're kind of stuck with.
Yeah,
Really,
big enough.
there'll be a valve on each hydrant, so the
Yeah.
hydrant breaks, you can turn it off, but because of how this is set, the valve's gonna be really close to the highway, so there's still gonna be 30 feet of line. And if it's done poorly, we can't get to, so we have to be very diligent in inspecting, and making sure those all correctly.
We can get to it, it'll just be extremely expensive.
We've gotta find it.
But we can't find it.
Yeah, we've gotta find it first, because
Yeah.
then we gotta get to, because again, when they put this highway in. And even if you where the leak is, you can't cut a 2-foot trench to it, they can take out the whole panel and replace the whole panel, so any repairs on that highway is gonna be.
So what can, because I mean, obviously, when you look at the cure time, what are they doing, 10 inches of concrete? Is it
Approximately 9
So 10 inches of concrete, I mean, your cure time on 10 inches of concrete, by anybody who's a concrete guy is gonna tell you that's years, not months. So that's not even a cure for 2 years, let's just say to be safe, which is our timeline. It cures finally, which allows the settling to happen, that finally settles, it's actually gonna settle in because it's finally cured. Is there any way we can extend?
There should be plenty of bed material, it shouldn't move.
Okay,
I mean, it's gonna, in reality, it's probably gonna take 50 years to cure totally,
probably.
but it's gonna cure enough that it's not, they're not gonna wait 20 years to drive cars.
They're gonna be driving for next year, is what they hope.
Yeah, yeah, so that's.
We're comfortable with a longer warranty bond, we could.
Yeah, we want longer, a mainline extension is totally at the board's discretion. Anything you want to add to this, let us know. I think the valves is a good idea. Like I said, just now, I think we should put a provision if they cause a delay. We're not gonna get it with those liquidated damages. And anything else you think is deemed as appropriate.
What about bollards? Because, they pay for them once, and if it's 13 hydrants placed downtown, and they've had obviously big issues with hydrants being hit by cars and trucks, we're responsible for all the replacements in perpetuity and all the maintenance in perpetuity. And I think it'd be worthwhile to require a fairly robust bollards around these hydrants.
And we've already talked to him about that, and Mike Church, and Mike Davis, about putting those in, but we could add that to this as well, but it will be in the construction plans. They can't start till we approve the plans, and that will be in the plans, but we could put those in the agreement as well.
I would, with whatever the legalese for installing bollard and other protective devices that meet with PAW's approval.
Yeah.
We should have some say so, I would think, in the locations. I don't know if we've met with them already and agreed with that, but if we are a subcontractor are gonna be doing maintenance in the future, where that water is gonna go. So maybe the hydrant needs to move 100 feet one direction.
And it may happen, so we're waiting for this is a moving target, as I said.
I understand.
Wasn't a lot of planning, so I wanna see plans. Nothing happens till we see plans.
Bottom line.
And I don't wanna waste a lot of time with it right now because like I said, this started at like, I think 27 or 23 hydrants and it's moved down, I think it's 9 now. They've walked it, I wasn't able to, but Art walked it with them and said, this is a bad idea, put it over here, so we are kind of working with them a little bit, but we really need to see plans to say. No, put it over here, do this, do that, so that's part of, that'll be required.
One question clarification for me is, you know, on the agenda, it says consideration of the mainline extension agreement, town of Pagosa. This document we're looking at is made for a developer. We're considering the town a developer, but I think if I heard you right, the main difference in the one for the town of Pagosa and a developer, you said, you know, not responsible for delays, CDOT delays and WW Clyde, that would not apply to every developer.
No, so I added some things that, so usually, you know, if the developer's putting a line in, they go into one of our existing lines and our line just crap or it breaks, we don't place that on the developer. We tend to repair that because it needs to be repaired. We're going above and beyond this because this is such an emergency. This is something that they are, when Mike Davis and James were here saying this has to be done now, they're exactly right. This has to be done now, but the planning should have been done 2 years ago.
Yes.
And the rest of us were doing that planning.
Yeah, and so their lack of planning has caused an emergency for us. And so I'm trying to minimize the emergency for us. Also, when you have a developer that puts a line in, he's giving us capital investment fees. We're typically getting more rates. We're not getting a dime out of this. So any expense that goes on comes right out of our pocket, where if a developer's putting something in there and they're giving us $20,000 or $30,000 in capital investment fees, it makes fixing that pipe a little less painful for us. Why? Because if you're gonna develop something in town.
No, I'm talking, why are we not? Sorry.
I'm gonna explain why. Because if a developer comes to us and wants to build something, they're gonna add what we call EUs, which is basically how many people are gonna use that water. And they have capital investment fees and fees associated with that. And then once it's tied up, the water goes through the meter and we charge for them. There's no additional EUs, there's no mechanism here for us to charge them for this. They'll pay for the taps, but that's just a flow through. We won't make money on that. We don't have a method to just haphazardly say, no, we want to charge you $10,000. We don't have the ability to do that.
Maintenance, it'll be a maintenance expense, ongoing maintenance expense, so we will just have to budget for, we won't be receiving any monthly rates that would typically go to that ongoing expense.
And I totally sympathize with the town.
Totally?
Almost. Thank you.
Good word.
Like you said, there's no revenue involved here, and I don't think there should be. You know, we will, like Renee just said, be paying, you know, $111 per hydrant today, adding that up, you know, 13 times, not a whole lot of money, but that's not a good reason to bypass all of these regulations. They're in there for a reason. They're asking us to take on a huge, in my opinion, a huge responsibility and liability. And staff brought it up last Thursday. Why not have the town just own the project, period? Later on, be it 6 months, a year or two, whatever, once that model is done and we can prove inspections were done correctly and all the engineering and staff and the board, and we receive that mainline extension permit, then once the board feels very comfortable that everything was done right, then it would be my opinion that our risk would be minimal.
That's what this does.
That's exactly.
Those hydrants are all theirs until they've done everything in this agreement to your satisfaction.
Yeah, I said that more for the benefit of those who aren't here but are online, and you, ma'am, appreciate you.
Well, I'll just I deal with a different proposal that's trying to run through the airport problem. It's not really the airport, it's a taxiway. Once again, if they'd done some planning 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they started thinking about this, it was actually 2020, so it's 5 years ago, they might have realized that they have a mess down there. I don't even know how you're possibly gonna get a line through. given all the service lines that are back there. You're gonna cut our sewer line. You never took our sewer line, so we're a little property owners association that owns a sewer line. Okay, that's fine. But there's a lot of service lines back there. I know you know that. You've brought it up before. So it's kind of frustrating to see the town, because this has been talked about, you know, fire flow for a long time. And now all of a sudden it's a crisis. I agree with you. You're doing the right thing. You're accommodating the mess that they've got themselves into.
Yeah, we're not trying to be mean about it. We're just.
I know. But liability, everybody gets invited to the party.
You bet.
It doesn't matter who wins, everybody gets invited to the party.
Absolutely.
So I just want to be clear that 2G says they will own it until the fire district gives us the agreement that we approve. They will completely satisfies our board,
Everything, not just the fire.
satisfies our attorney. They will own this system until we get that from the fire district.
Yes.
Okay, no,
And
They
that's,
will own it until every.
yeah,
including
that.
including that.
And that's how,
And-
and that's not.
and the
just what we do
warranty
in town.
bond-
That's not just what we do in the town, any developer.
The
will.
warranty bond is going to allow for the fact that they're gonna have to rip up a concrete highway.
Yep.
Within 2 years if there's a failure.
Yep.
So how do we calculate?
The warranty
that?
bond is usually the value of the equipment, so it's gonna be about a 1.5 or $2 million warranty bond.
Per. Is that what it would cost to do the repair?
Probably not, but it's gonna be, the warranty bond probably gonna be more than the equipment.
So it's per.
It's gonna be probably more
It
than
would
the
be-
cost repaired.
It would be cost more to repair?
No, the bond would probably be more.
More than the cost to repair, okay. I wanna,
Because it's
just wanted
usually
to,
done based on what the cost is.
wanted to make sure
We
that-
know from what we're doing underneath there, they're charging everything underneath at a premium.
okay, so one more question. There are fire hydrants in the 1 and 200 block, which is gonna be concreted over in the next 4 weeks. Can we leave that part out of the project and do this in the right order for the 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 block? And just say, sorry, you didn't come to us in time. You can't do the 1 and 200 block because you didn't do what you were supposed to do. I'm just kind of throwing this out. You're gonna have to go with the hydrants that you already have on the 100, 200 block. And we will be happy to work with you for the rest of the project, but you didn't come to us to have the water model done. You didn't come to us with the engineered drawings. So you're out of luck on those 2 blocks.
Yeah,
I'm just throwing that out to the board as a possible solution.
Like I said,
Because
the acceptance of the mainline.
I don't like, I mean, I like the town, I live in the town, you know, I like all the people in the council. I may not like all the staff, I may not like all the staff, but, I don't like the idea of cutting them a break because we waited 2 years to do what they were supposed to do.
I honestly don't think we're really cutting them a break. We may be doing things out of order, but they still have to do
Right.
everything. Yeah.
And I really kind of like that idea, but Paul, you know, that idea I think needs to be given to them. But until that mainline extension comes in and it says everything except 1 and 200 block, you know, in other words, our position isn't gonna change. But there's 2 things they can do. They can eliminate the 1 or 200 block, or they can own it. You know, take your pick.
Well, they're gonna own it for 2 years no matter what.
Well, they're gonna own it till they get all this stuff done. They,
No,
Right.
but I
during
mean,
the movement bond, they don't.
and
own it.
there's a warranty, there's a
Yeah,
warranty.
we still own it, but it's
Oh,
under there, but it's either
We
repair.
take it over once this is
They
done.
own
Once this
it
is
until
done.
everything's done, and then the 2 years starts.
And then the 2 years.
And then the 2 years starts,
Okay,
yeah.
the 2-year warranty starts.
So what is y'all's opinion? I mean, obviously you guys know this better than I do, but what is y'all's opinion of like them tying in? Cause I mean, I've done water leaks downtown before when people called when I was doing landscaping and stuff like that. And half the time we were tying in the clay pipe. So what is cause I see how it's written to our standards. But what is gonna be our standard when it comes to them impacting a main line pipe that goes into a clay pipe? Is our standard gonna be you have to replace it all the way to their meter?
We don't have any clay pipe down there.
Sewer.
Clay pipe usually on the
Sewer.
board.
Sorry, sewer, okay, then it was sewer, right, that's true.
And most of the pipe that they're tying into, 99%, is all new stuff that we're putting in right now.
Okay,
So just to give you a little background, when we first heard that they're gonna redo, about 3 years ago, CDOT started talking about redoing and so we paused, hired an engineer, we said, we should replace all of our lines underneath, there's about 8 crossings. We should replace all of our lines underneath the highway when they tear it all up. So we hired an engineer, got plans, submitted them to CDOT, went back and forth with that. CDOT used those plans in their bid package, so the person doing the plan is also doing all of our lines.
okay.
And so a lot of our lines are being replaced, and a lot of what they're tied into would be those brand new lines.
Okay.
But they will have one section going into an alley, which is an old line, and it's an old steel pipe, I'm pretty sure it's a steel pipe. That's probably 60, 70 years old. I don't know for a fact, when they put a saddle on there to tap into that, that thing won't just decay, so that's why we have that in there.
Okay.
If that happens, you're gonna replace that whole section of pipe.
And then.
But I think we should be prepared. You know, again, I'm a bit of an engineering dummy, but my spidey sense is that this project going out with 1,000 feet of pipe, and it's still 13, perhaps it's now down to 11. I think it started at 27 hydrants, might not come in at the price they think they're going to get. It may come in, especially given all these change orders, a substantially higher price. And then following on that, if their project complicates or breaks some of our infrastructure, going to them and trying to get some more money is going to be pretty contentious. So be prepared for that. And one though, I just want to follow up on Bill. I mean, all of this, like any going forward in this, we've got to have an approval letter and an approval stamp from the PFPD that just immunizes us from any liability down there. So.
Yeah, we've got to have everything in this covenants and agreements document, so.
Right. I mean, it's crazy. We're really being asked to I the dots and T the crosses here. You know, it's like, you know, it's, so. And I think we're meeting them more than halfway here, but we do need certain assurances for our ratepayers.
So the only question I think is, have we talked about enough changes that this can't be voted on tonight?
I don't even think it needs to be voted on. I think this is just something that I want you guys to be comfortable with it, because you've approved the mainline extension process, and we're not really changing. This is the process. We just added a couple stipulations and clarifications. I don't think it really needs to be voted. I just want you guys to be comfortable with it. If we,
I wouldn't mind voting on it though.
Yeah.
If you're, and it can just be, as revised above.
Yeah.
It's a discretion.
Because I'll note the changes to the document within minutes.
Well, but really quickly, I think we need to be very clerical of why, if we want to even present the option of 1 and 2 Street. Because I don't think that we want to be the ones who are pro or against, or the reason that something does get delayed or doesn't get delayed based on our observation. So if your 1 and 200 Street is for the satisfaction that hopefully gets done sooner, I would say I don't want to go there. If you have all secondary alternatives where you're like, hey, it just makes more sense or something like that, then I'm open to hearing that. But I would be very personally like anti taking any side that would cause this, even the speculation that we made something that either made it go faster or slower, because I don't want to be a part of it.
Well, that's what we discussed with them I'm sorry, Glenn, I'll say one thing, but we did discuss that, with them, BJ, when they were here last Thursday. And we did say the fastest way for you to make this happen is to keep the infrastructure.
To own it.
To own it.
Mhm. Forever.
For them to own it forever.
Okay, for them to own it.
Because then they don't need this. They don't need to do any of our stuff.
Would that require a huge meter so that we're actually billing them?
No, we wouldn't build those.
Fire water's always free.
Oh, fire, okay, so just the
This is
fire
really
suppression, okay, so just fire. Okay,
We
fire,
would just
okay.
consider, we would liken that infrastructure to a service line, to any service line.
That makes a lot more sense than me thinking it was the whole entire line. I'm like,
Yeah, no,
I like
they
Renee's
want to
idea.
add fire hydrants for downtown. That's, it's only fire hydrants.
Okay.
In the,
Glenn had a comment and I interrupted him.
oh, Glenn, go ahead.
Well, just, yeah, I'm not really up to speed on the First and Second Street question. I'm just in kind of a big picture sense. Anytime that they're replacing existing hydrants, which are our maintenance responsibility, with new hydrants that they're paying for, that helps us out, because those are hydrants that if they were kept in place, we would eventually have to pay to replace, and maybe they'd be difficult to replace given, if they were somehow to do some sort of highway improvements with, concrete with those in place. And the second is, I think we should keep in mind that on this whole issue of fire flows and fire safety and jurisdictions and responsibilities, that we need to defend our district and defend our customers, but we also, I think, need to be very cooperative, because there are a lot of, this could go really sideways with municipalities and county government and the fire district, and keeping a cooperative kind of relationship and some compromise is probably going to be really essential to move forward in kind of a productive way, because everybody has different tools where they can make life very difficult for the other party, and I don't think the community benefits there. So I just keep that in mind.
What's staff preference, direction or a vote?
However you guys want to do, I do want to clarify, Glenn, these are all new proposed hydrants. They're not replacing any hydrants. These are all brand new locations.
Right.
Okay.
I don't care what, and I think we are being cooperative. This is the same step that any developer has to go through. We just added a couple stipulations because of the timing of it, and a couple clarifications.
It just seems to me like if it was voted on and approved by the board, it takes a little bit of pressure off staff.
Sure.
I think the board is fully apprised of the gravity of everything, and it's fair and it's the right thing to do. So I would entertain a motion to that effect.
Do we want to make a motion that we would approve this with the stipulations we discussed?
With the I think it's 3 modifications.
With the 3 modifications.
Yeah. Would you repeat those? Repeat those modifications?
So we have, Justin, can you help me?
Any delays to the CDOT project?
Oh, yeah, so any delays,
Is and associated liquidated damage, well, the wordsmith this a little bit, and any associated liquidated damages would be fully on the town. Add meters to locations on the extension that's feasible, and add bollards.
protective devices of some kind.
And add bollards at the discretion of the district.
You said meters, you meant valves, didn't you?
Valves, I'm sorry, valves, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I make a motion that with those 3 stipulations included into this proposal that we have here, that we accept this and give it to the town.
So it's not, I'd call this a contract.
Yeah. That you accept the
Contract.
main line extension acceptance agreement and present it to the town. Yeah.
Got a motion?
I think you just said that.
Okay.
You just said that.
Right?
Yeah.
Second that.
Do I hear a second to
Yeah.
that?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Do we want to, I mean, obviously, I know, and I'm only saying this from the perspective of delays. Do we want to somehow put in that motion an additional thing that gives staff and or the town reasonable, observation to change slight things without another motion? Or do we want to make a living document, or do we want to make it a solid?
Well, so this will be pretty
solid.
Now, once we get the plans, there's probably gonna be some
Adjustments.
They'll probably come to us and say, hey, you can't go.
And that kind of stuff is usually handled through change orders and other things, so I think
We'll work with their engineers and the contractors.
We're gonna be cooperative, Glenn.
There's a lot of back and forth.
Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for the agenda. Does staff have any other updates on things?
I really.
Did you wanna, talk to them about our conversation with the fire department?
Sure, yeah, we can, and you may wanna jump in on this, but today at 3:30, we had a joint meeting with Marcus and the fire chief and the fire department's attorney to talk about not specifically this, but anything going forward where we want very clear direction that they're taking the liability off of us based on any type of flows for fire when they change them, when it doesn't exactly meet the fire code. So one, they're in charge of telling, we don't know the fire code, we don't wanna know it. They have to tell us what it is. But then when we can't meet it, they need to put the, and that's what they're working on, is it some type of word documentation, a contract saying that, yeah, we know the fire code says to put in X, but PAWS only has Y. We, the fire department, are taking responsibility for not meeting the fire code. And that's, and I think it was a fairly productive meeting.
Oh, yeah, they agreed to, they acknowledge that they don't currently have a proper procedure for waivers of that, and that it's generally pretty informal. And they recognize that that probably needs to change. And that they would present us with, a draft soon. I'm gonna push it pretty hard because I've got the, Clomid inclusion. And their fire flow is what they have, but the existing infrastructure is less than what was originally dictated by the fire department. Not by much, but it is still less. So we still need a better document in place, and that is a petition for inclusion. So they're not actually in the district yet. So, we have a bit more, latitude with what we can request of folks who aren't even in the district yet. But in this case, they've fulfilled everything except they just have that deficient hydrant that's the closest existing hydrant, as well as they're being required by the fire department to put a additional hydrant on our 8-inch line that when run through the model, projected to be diminishing floods on the way down.
Yeah, again, they want 1,700 and best we can get is like 13, so. But,
So it's good to hear there's positive discussion.
Yeah, it's
Look
very
forward to that.
positive. I mean, fire chief was here last week. We haven't had that. I don't think I've seen the fire chief in one of our meetings. I don't remember ever, actually. They may have shown up to provide public comment on another issue, but not in that capacity, and most certainly not in the capacity that we had from Mr. Bertram, Chief Bertram, last week. I was very encouraged and he was very cooperative today. Really looking forward to working with them. I think this will be an improvement not only for us, but also for them.
I can also give you an update while we're on the same side, fire hydrants. So we are now, I think 960 some have been tested and have been inspected. So they should be, we have 1,125, so they should be done in the next.
We finding more problems downtown?
No, no, not at this point.
Ah,
Are they doing downtown?
We're still at 7.
I think
Really?
they're downtown right now.
wow.
We're still at the 7.
So we found more problems in the Pagosa Lakes areas. Wow, okay.
But we haven't gotten down to Holiday Acres.
Yeah, there's still ways to go.
There's still
Yeah.
spots.
But it's not been a catastrophe. You know, we're at we used a little over 1%, now we're a little under 1% of, and when I say that, that's fire hydrants that had major problems, that we need to fix,
Right.
we replace or fixed right now. They have like 300 comments of it needs painting, needs
Okay.
oil, it needs grease, and there's gonna be, and we're gonna look at all that and put together a
Are they
operational plan.
done with Lake Pagosa?
Yeah.
Well, they did it quietly.
Yeah.
And I have a,
Moving right along.
I have a silly kind of a legal question. And it's because I've been here so long, stupid things come to my head. Do inclusions have to be contiguous?
So
And now, here's why I'm asking. The airport's in, then there's a good little stretch that's not in, and then JR's project is in. Is there an easement that makes that contiguous, or do inclusions not have to be contiguous?
I see a little non-contiguous piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
No,
they
that's true, yeah.
have to, they have to petition to include all of the property that they want to serve. They can't just say they. The,
No, I get that. Does
okay,
does
so,
it have to be contiguous?
so we would have to end up getting, if it's not contiguous, we would need the easements, yes, and that would. Usually, Jean, you might know this better, but right now, we would ask that the petitioner acquire those on our behalf.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because this map obviously is
so they would. need
10,
to-
15 years old, I think.
I mean, those petitions for inclusion, those would also be significant mainline extensions, so they would be going through the same process.
Okay.
Generally, you know, so they would be getting the easements, they would be building the infrastructure and installing it, and then they would be getting all the easements and then everything.
I think everything, but for some reason, I thought there can be no islands. It's got to be contiguous, and I don't know why I have that in my head.
As long as it's within the district, I mean, you know, like that we can serve it. Yeah, we shouldn't do those though.
Yeah, that goes back to serving two masters, you know. All
We
these
shouldn't.
flags going out
Those are-
don't make sense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Expensive.
Certainly Elk Park is not contiguous.
No,
Yeah, and Log Park and
Log Park,
Mill Creek Road and
Eagle Peak and.
don't get me started.
And all of them are trouble.
and they're all, it's, that this, yeah, for BJ's edification, that's generally, those are more expensive. Those are more expensive.
Oh, I'm sure.
Water, yeah, more expensive to serve.
Why? And again, I'm just trying to get up to date, just so you guys know, I'll come with opinions, stuff like that, I've been on board, so I feel like it can be an asset, but why? Why would we even consider something like Dry Gulch when we haven't even connected Stevens?
We're not considering.
Good question. Different boards, different decades.
Okay.
Now, we're very much working on the Hatcher to Stevens to Hatcher, and that's been a challenge over the years because of the property owner in between.
And what would be, I mean, like, let's just say you did, I'm just throwing out Dry Gulch. What would be your connection point? Would you run it through the river so that then we could get it downtown?
Pick it up later, that.
Pick it up down south now.
Or pump it to Snowball, but either one of those is.
Again, I'm just trying to get up to date, just so I can have a.
So you
just a-
make a good point, so even if the dam magically appeared tomorrow. We're still tens of millions of dollars away from being able to use that water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even the dam ferries just built it tonight.
I would think you'd almost be hundreds of millions of dollars away.
Probably not hundreds, but certainly tens.
Yes.
So
Well,
will you be back for our next meeting when you can present?
When I can present,
Because we didn't have public comment at this meeting because it was a special meeting.
oh no. So I appreciate you for letting me stay in, it's
All
would like to ask a question, can I just say, when these exceptions that the fire department would be willing to give, that I know that the infrastructure doesn't exist to meet the gold standard of fire flow, would that exception apply to new projects as well?
Yeah.
They would be
Only new
given-
projects.
Only new projects?
Well, yeah, new fire flows, yeah.
New fire flows, so we're coming in, we know we can't meet 1,500, let alone 1,700, but go ahead, build them.
But only new,
Only
only
if
new
the fire hydrant
approved,
takes
only new
responsibility.
approved when they take responsibility.
That's what we're for, yes.
And we have no choice but to allow you to stay. All meetings are open to the public. The only thing that you can't stay in the room for is if we're in executive session.
I understand.
Again, we really appreciate your presence.
Okay, well, I appreciate you. I find that, and so new developments, no, we don't have to meet the fire flow, it's,
That'll be the fire department.
What was done 40 years ago is done 40 years ago.
but that's the existing infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah,
So they were-
that's why I'm asking, so if you're gonna run a mile-long new pipe, then it's okay if it doesn't meet.
No,
If,
it doesn't have
if the
to.
fire.
Then it does have,
Unless the fire department says, well, there's two things, when you're gonna run a new pipe and you do mainline extension, we make sure there's domestic flows, you can put a house on it. I have to make sure I have enough water for your house, you can take a shower, brush
Okay,
your teeth. We do that, and if our infrastructure doesn't meet that, then you developer have to upgrade the infrastructure to meet that. And we have authority over that, we have expertise over that. there's also a fire flow.
Right.
We need the fire department to say, because I don't know what it takes to put a fire out. So they have to tell us you need this, and if they don't meet that, they either have to build the infrastructure up to meet that fire flow, and fire flow is always higher than domestic flow, it's never even close. So they either have to build the infrastructure to meet that, or the fire department has to say, it doesn't meet the code, but it's close, we're happy with it, we won't, and it's not Paz's fault if the building burns down. That's what we're
That's.
asking for.
Mhm.
Right, everybody gets invited to the party. I'm just
Yeah,
surprised
or
that
if
it's
the town
new, like on the project I'm looking at. So you're gonna run a new mile long, that's a proposal. But does it have to be 1,500 or?
It has to be whatever the fire department.
Whatever the fire department says.
Keep in mind though that, again, going back to serving two masters. It may meet fire flow and it may meet everything except Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment. They don't care about fire.
Mhm.
They don't care as long as that water, I'll use the word potable, is drinkable and has a little tiny bit of chlorine in it. You know, if there was no, because a part of running the model, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a chlorine declination or algorithm, whatever you call it, in the water model. And if the water model says, yeah, you're gonna have plenty of flow, plenty of pressure, but you're not gonna have any chlorine left, that might be a reason why we would say no.
Yeah, it's not exactly what they do when they run the model, they look at the tanks and they look at tank.
Yeah,
drawdown
that'll.
and that's how they determine that, they don't look at the flow in the line, but you know, if the tank never draws down, then it's gonna be a problem, if it draws down too much, that's a problem, so
Right.
that's.
Or
that
dead
kind of
hill.
we can correlate that with chlorine, but it's not looked at directly.
Sorry.
But it's a point, it just,
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
yeah, so moved.
Or second.
I've gone to their board,
Oh.
except your team. They have no idea that Knowles was even involved in it. Or who put the lines in.
We have a motion in a second.
Yeah.
All in
No,
favor?
we're done.
All right, cool.
He doesn't need a motion.
Aye.
Whatever he wants.
Okay.
But we wanted to give Richie a chance to make a motion.
Don't motion or make.
Okay, so I'm gonna shut this down.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right, everyone be well. Have a peaceful night.
You too.
Thank you.